Here we go. There we go. Back online. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nick Johnson. I'm the publisher of Axios. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've had an awesome week down here on the Prosette. Tons of great events. All of them possible only thanks to the support of our partners. So huge thanks to Nielsen for making this conversation possible, for hosting us oceanfront. Not bad. These will be some good LinkedIn pictures for later this afternoon to brag about everyone back at home. And so I'm very happy to be here with Nielsen's CEO, Karthik Rao. Karthik, how are you doing today?
Big happy birthday to Nick. Everybody,
Thank you.
happy
Thank you very
birthday to you.
So great to turn 28 here in the south of France. Let's jump into it and start big picture. Why don't you give us a view of the state of watching sports on TV right now from your vantage point?
So just taking this all the way up for a second, the consumer behavior shift is undeniable. We're Nielsen. We obviously deal in numbers a lot. We published viewing time yesterday for the latest round of data. Streaming is now close to 45% of all time spent, which is, for the first time, slightly higher than broadcast and cable combined. Broadcast is still holding up, to be clear.
Yeah.
Cable is where, over the last few years, there's been much more of a decline. So at this point, it's such a overwhelming stat that is where a lot of viewing is, and that's where a lot of content is going. So that's one. The second is, going back to, I don't think there's anyone here in Gen Z, but for most of us here, we grew up with a TV schedule. Right. The point of a TV schedule was largely around two things. One, people who have money and receive advertising usually have a job. So when they have spare time, it's usually evenings, prime time. And so appointment-based viewing is a really important thing. Why does that work in the business? Because you can predict audiences with an appointment. And so you're seeing a lot of appointment-based content shifting. It's beginning, obviously, with sports, right? Biggest audiences. So that's a big shift that's taking place. We believe there's going to be more and more content that takes that same old TV-like experience, not just the on-demand. And then the third is just, for brands, this is completely opened up a totally different thing. So at the highest level, there's the consumer trend, there's the way publishers are approaching it, and the way brands are approaching it.
I want to come back to brands in a minute, but let's stay a little bit just focused on streaming. What's fascinating, I think, that we've talked about before is the importance of meeting viewers where they are. And so what do you pull out of that massive trend data, that streaming is moving up and is finally overtaking the traditional metrics? How important is meeting those viewers where they're going right now?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is just to use good examples, right? If you just take, one of our partners and friends, Tubi, and you just take a step back and you look at what, hey Anjali, you just look at what the amazing thing they did with the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And I hope everyone knows that, yes, it was a live broadcast, but it was also on Tubi, and the audience was incremental. And we didn't have that 2 years ago, if you think about it, right? Everyone talked about the world being all separate. This is a different viewer, this is a different viewer. Those things may be true, but incrementality of the audience is an amazing thing that's gotten unlocked. Yeah.
So with that, understanding those big trends and understanding the nuance of where those viewers are, what's the advice you would give to people here? How do you help brands navigate this? What are the tips?
Yeah, I think the first is I would not underestimate the discovery challenge that exists. We obviously spend a lot of time in discovery. Sometimes you need a PhD to navigate where to find something to watch, right? And the human behavior, we measure this stuff, is people are trying to find something to watch, and then they get bored, and guess where they go? YouTube, right? And so I think, even as Mike described, if you have to memorize where a particular sport is for a given week and know where to go when, that's not a great consumer experience. So I think the first call out is marketing and making it easy for people to find content. I think is a underinvested area because we're all consumers and finding stuff is not easy. None of us like to do that anyway.
What should those investments look like? Like we can have, like I know where to find NBA basketball now because Mike Trico told me, but that's not really doesn't scale. What is your advice on how to make that more normal?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is where traditional brand marketing and retailing. It's retail, right? This is the same principles as retail. At retail, you advertise a product. Everyone needs to know where to go to buy it. So to me, it's a lot more around how you market, but also destination and just driving that drumbeat. I think is really important. Old rules, but they do apply because it's a very complex content retail environment. For brands, I think the experiences. Again, shout out to Mark. He didn't say anything nice about Nielsen, so we asked him to leave. But what they did with Peacock. The innovation they brought, if you think about Sunday Ticket, the experiences that they're creating are very unique, and it can only be done because the whole thing is tech founded, right? It's tech based, and so brands have a much different way of engaging. It's not just about reach.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Peacock again and like what they talked about for the sports. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more, zeroing in on sports more. You recently released some research on the topic. What are the trends you're seeing specifically related to sports consumption and streaming?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all sort of seen this thing happen. We see pockets and anecdotes, but there is a real uplift for all things women and sports. And this is a phenomenon that has shifted in the last, it's really a big shift in the last 2 to 3 years, right? If you look at the engagement around, I'll just pick the WNBA,
absolutely,
and you look at fandom, there are significant increases on a 2-year period. And I think that is here to stay. And that's been an underinvested area, not just in the sport, but also in the fans. So that to me is one big shift.
It's like an opportunity because it's so new and people haven't capitalized on it.
100%. And buying behavior, all these things, right? It gives you a totally different lens to think about who's engaged in the content and what do they do in terms of purchase behavior or whatever else.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I actually, like, real quickly, like, is that a different audience, an evolved audience from what traditionally existed for sports? Is it bringing in new viewers then even perhaps?
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing, again, that we see through the work we do is that when there is momentum around sports, it has the effect of bringing in non-fans, if you will, or not diehard fans, because you don't want to be left out of the conversation that takes place, right? I mean, we all remember going to work back in the day when you didn't watch the Sunday night game and you're just left out of the entire conversation at the coffee table or whatever. That is a real phenomenon. And for the FIFA World Cup, we've already done the work based on historical. We can already predict there's going to be 11% more non-fans coming into.
Because we're going to be talking about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's such a big thing, they can't be left out. This 11% number, they're people with purchase propensity and other things, and so they can be marketed to. So it's just opening up many new dimensions is what I'd say.
So let's spin this forward. What's on the horizon? What are you looking at? What's the next trend that's coming at us?
Yeah, I think I think all things women in sports, WNBA, like literally
the trend's not over yet.
It's just
still
beginning.
Coming, right?
It's going to scale quite dramatically. I think if you look at what's going on with soccer in the U.S. and the way culture is being shaped and fandom is being created, again, very early stages. That's going to
and the World Cup
off.
coming to the United States.
World Cup next year, and then the third is sort of my favorite, which again, Bharat Ramesh sitting there. He used to work at Group M. He'll remember this, but cricket is the dark horse right now, and it's gonna catch
Keep
up.
an eye on cricket. Well, on that note, let's end on one fun thing like we do at Axios. Let's do one sports thing. What is the big sports event that's closest next on your horizon you're most excited about?
I mean, there's no question, right? Like living with the Winter Olympics is the big shebang, and you can't wait to see all the new stuff that Peacock is going to pull off. It's going to be even more
curling. We heard will be on. Tune in. Amazing, Karthik. Thanks so much for being here. Huge thanks to Nielsen for making this possible. Sarah Fisher is back on stage.